Whereas a Muslim would think the way he speaks, the way he gives himself. Now at this moment, the way I have an interview with you, I'm trying not to be upset with you.
You're not answering the question. You're not answering the question. I asked you about the Ottoman legitimacy. What does that have to do with deen, with way of life?
Now, they were as legitimate as everything else was before them. The Umayyads, the Abbasids existed as well.
So you're saying that the Ottoman practice of fratricide is something that is allowed, in Islam?
Okay.
Welcome back, Dr. Steph. Happy to have you here. We have many questions. This time I'll be talking about I'll be talking about the Ottoman Empire. Now, you lecture, you speak, you specialize in the Ottoman Empire, and you are of the opinion that the Ottoman Empire is a legitimate empire. However, there are many Muslims out there. There are many former subjects of the Ottoman Empire. I would rather say former colonial subjects of the Ottoman Empire. Not in North Africa, the Arabs themselves, having felt the tyranny of the Ottoman Empire, I doubt they would ever consider them a legitimate caliphate. And on top of that, the tyranny they've had to suffer in the Balkans, in the Arabian Peninsula, in North Africa, I don't think that considers them as a legitimate caliphate, among other objections that people have. What do you say on this?
First of all, was it a question or was it something like a speech from your side believing all this what you're just saying? Because you mentioned
it's not
a legitimate caliphate. You mentioned, what did you say about the Ottomans?
Yes,
their subjects, tyranny. You
yes.
mentioned these are quite some accusations, right? So
don't the Greeks say themselves? You are Greek, brother. So
absolutely.
Don't the Greeks say themselves that the horrible things that the Ottomans did to them, the horrible things that the Ottoman sultans did to them, banning their language so they have to hide in the mountains to learn from the priests there in horrible conditions their language. It's a miracle that they still have a Greek nation nowadays.
So were you taught this by the Greek history books or something, or how? Who told you all this stuff? Do you believe that what you just said? So anyway, okay, let's go and start with A, because you seem to be starting with Z and trying to go back again. Now, first of all, the Greeks say a lot of things, the Serbs say a lot of things, the Balkan nations, all the Christian Balkan nations, even the Albanians, actually, most of them are not Christians, they believe things that they have been taught the last couple of decades. Since the breakup of the Ottoman Empire, the development of nation states, we have nowadays, there was in between Yugoslavia, now we have 6, 7 other countries that developed after Yugoslavia, and we realized in Yugoslavia that there were Muslim people, Muslims living in Yugoslavia, who were suppressed by the communists before, by the way. So now you're talking about...
trying to now take the attention away from the Ottomans to the communists now.
No, I mean, let's stick to the facts here. Okay, first of all, Muslims were suppressed during the time of Yugoslavia. There's no doubt about it. During the time of Albania, not only Muslims, but any religious people were suppressed. Synagogues, churches, as well as mosques were actually not supposed to be existing during the time, and I think this, even you would admit this one, I think. So during the time of communism, there was a problem with religion in itself. It was declared as opium for the people. Karl Marx said that, right? And this is something that communists in general believed, and they had a policy against religion and against religious people. Now, with regards to Muslims, even more so, because Islam is the only deen. And now, if we translate deen as religion, which is a wrong translation, I never did that, I would rather say it's a type of lifestyle. It's a way of life. Okay, a little bit more than what Christians do, going to church on a Sunday, and that's about it. Not having, not being influenced by Christianity in itself at all. Whereas a Muslim would think the way he speaks, the way he gives himself. Now at this moment, the way I have an interview with you, I'm trying not to be upset with you.
You're not answering the question. You're not answering the question. I asked you about the Ottoman legitimacy. What does that have to do with deen, with way of life?
Now, they were as legitimate as everything else was before them. The Umayyads, the Abbasids existed as well. Many other Caliphs existed already, or many other dynasties existed.
So you're saying that the Ottoman practice of fratricide is something that is allowed, in Islam?
Okay. Now, we are speaking about specific issues. Now, for example, the fratricide. Okay, that's a very good point that you mentioned this, or I'm happy that you mentioned this, but you would mention it, of course, that would fit to an interview like this. Fratricide did exist during the Ottoman Empire, without a doubt, and I never negated that. But fratricide also existed under other dynasties and other empires as well. And you would find this even under Christian, in Christian-ruled countries. You would also find that a father would kill that a son would kill his father, that a brother would kill another brother, which actually that's what fratricide means. This did exist, no doubt about it, and nobody says that this is the right thing to do, and nobody says that this is supported by Islam. I would never say that, never. It happened, yes, and we admit it, and it's a fact of history. So that does not mean that they're illegitimate. That does not make the Ottomans suddenly not being an Islamic empire or caliphate. Not at all, right? So basically, all these points that are thrown against the Ottomans from the side of the Arabs as well, when they try to legitimize actually their revolution, when they try to legitimize, to make it okay for them to actually kill their own brethren, okay, because they disagreed with them, because they thought that the British or the French would give them later, they trusted them more, would give them later an Arab territory, which they believed in. I mean, obviously, believe a liar.
Well, at least they have a nation where they can speak their own language and express themselves in their own culture, compared to under the Ottomans, where they totally banned, or at least attempted to ban.
Who banned? Where do you get this your information from? Who banned anybody's language during the Ottomans? The Ottomans never banned Greek, Arabic, Albanian, Bosnian. In the contrary, it is. You will find sources by Slavic people, for example, going and dealing and doing deals with the Ottomans. Let's say nowadays Bosnia, okay, in a city such as Sarajevo. It is reported in Zagreb, in Croatia. It's reported that there would be Croatian, there would be people, Muslims, who would speak Slavic languages with them. Okay, where did they get the Slavic languages from? Slavic languages and Albanian and other languages were spoken. The Ottoman Empire was a multi-religious, multicultural, multi-faith institution. Okay, and nobody would impose another one language over the other. Okay, so that is not entirely true what you just said, and I think you should really check your sources, right? But it would fit. I mean, again, these kind of points you will hear from people who believe that they know history and who believe their sources, probably a source written by their grandfather. I mean, you have some kind of, in Greece, I know people who have written books, all right? They have been to 4 or 5 years of school, primary school, 5 or 6 years of primary school, and then they start writing a book because they have heard their grandfather saying something about how terrible the Ottomans were towards themselves. That is not a legitimate source. Is this a source that you would take? Would you take this one as a source to believe, a believable source? Would you do that? I think you wouldn't, would you?
You say all of that, which I see your point. However, with regards to language and culture, you're telling me that they did not suppress it or did not try to wipe it out. Well, explain to me then, if that was not the case, then these massacres of the Arabs, the Armenian genocide, for example, the other genocides and massacres that happened throughout the empire.
That would again
explain
be typical.
To me, what if they're legitimate?
Yes.
If they are
so first
an
of all, there
empire
were
that was multicultural, multi-ethnic.
I do not know what kind of massacres you're
about?
talking about with regards to the Arabs. What Arab massacres are you talking about? Honestly, now let's be real here now. Now, the Armenian genocide that happened in 1915, or at least what they claim to that has happened, there are clear, if you look at history again from an unbiased perspective, in contrast to what you are doing here now, you will see that actually the Armenians betrayed, who were subject of the Ottomans, betrayed their masters with siding with the Russians, who were clear enemies against the Ottoman Empire. So in any country nowadays in the world, nowadays 2022, if you have now, you're living in a country and you have a minority living in your country, and this minority sides with your enemy, you would have, that would be a case of treason, wouldn't it? So you see clearly that I think even nowadays we would agree with what the Ottomans did in the past. With regards to the genocide, now this is a case in itself that needs study from all perspectives and from all sides. Okay, genocides happened towards the time of the Young Turks a lot, simply because the Young Turks were nothing else but a fascist branch, okay, of all the other fascists in Europe that time, which was independent of Islamic Christianity. That time we had Italian fascists, we had French fascists, we had German fascists, and the same ideology and ideas went over to the Young Turks, who actually supported this kind of idea of wanting an independent Turkish nation where they speak Turkish, they are Muslims, whatever this might meant to them, because for them, Islam didn't mean the 5 pillars of Islam. It just simply meant you're born a Muslim. And so on and so on. That's what it meant to them, actually. So they went against the idea of the Ottoman Empire, okay, being a caliphate, being something like an Islamic state. The Young Turks wanted a nation with the example that they had of France, especially. The French Revolution, right? The idea of a nation, one country, one religion, one people, one language.
Unfortunately, we've come to the end. I don't think you've answered directly a few of my questions. So I look forward to definitely next time when we have another interview to pushing forward those questions.
Inshallah,
I do appreciate you answering the questions, a few of them, but a few others you have not answered and you kept beating around the bush. Hopefully next time, the next topic, it won't be like this.
Inshallah. Thank you very much then.
The Islamic History Institute presents The Great History Debate. We welcome you to a mesmerizing and deeply engaging series of original and unique public history debates, focusing on various events, themes, and topics, ranging from classical to modern epics in Islamic history. Now, for this very first time, you will have the opportunity to witness and experience Islamic history before your very eyes. For more information about all of our upcoming live debates and for ticket inquiries, please visit our website now at www.thegreathistorydebate.com.